Welcome back, junkies. I'm Brandon Dukeman here with Will Harvey, and thanks for joining us today for the Daily Wealth Junkies show. Before we get started with our awesome guest today, be sure to subscribe to subscribe to the show so that you're not missing any of our daily episodes, and rate and comment so that we know how we're doing. And also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will to introduce our guest for the day.
Thank you, Brandon. Today on the show, we have Anthony Kirby, and his story is pretty unique. So he left a $275,000 corporate job to start his business. He's worked with over 1,000 businesses and sales teams all over 3 continents. And I was joking with him before the show started that he has 4 more to go. So we're going to talk more about his story and dive into all that. So Anthony, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Can you just give the listeners a bit more about your background and what got you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me. It's awesome to see people having a crack and sharing great content with people, because it's extremely helpful for others on this journey.
Yeah.
My story, look, I'll give you the short version. I was married at 21, moved to Australia after my father passed away when I was 19 when he died, which was pretty
Wow.
pretty sad, of course.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But it made me realize a few things that I'll talk about in a moment when we get to the whole point of leaving the job. But anyway, I was married. And then, my ex-wife was pregnant. And when she was 6 months pregnant, I get this phone call. And the guy on the other side of the line, he says, "Is your name Kirby?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." And he said, "Is your wife, this woman?" I said, "Yeah, it is." He said, "Oh, she's having an affair and that baby's not yours." And I was like,
shit.
"What?"
Whoa.
So, yeah.
Oh, man.
So that was like the first real wheels start spinning moment in my life where, at the time I was working in this corporate job, getting paid big bucks, and on the outside looking in, all of my friends and anyone looking at me would have thought I had all my shit together. And that happened, and I was like, all right, that's a bit of a wake up call. So anyway, I ended up leaving the house that day with two black bags, basically, with my clothes in.
Yeah.
And sleep on
right
my friend's sofa. And the drama that ensued. Fast forward a little while, I met my current wife, and we had a little boy together. We had our first child, Charlie, who's
Nice.
now almost 5. Yeah, so there's a happy ending.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. And what happened was when Charlie was born, I was pretty much flying around the country, flying in and out of Brisbane every week for my job, or most weeks for my job. Racking up the frequent flyer miles. And when my son was born, I remember holding him for the first time and looking at him and going, this is what my dad must have felt when he held me for the first time. And it made me realize some of the things I'd discussed with my dad in the lead up to his death. One of the things particularly being that I didn't want to waste my life. And what I mean by that is, I saw this guy who was 48 years old. He'd done everything right by the book. He got the job. He was a police officer. He was, well respected in his field. Went to university to get a degree so that he could look after himself in retirement. Financially stable, owned the house, all that stuff. Yet he was lying on his deathbed, saying to me, "Son, I wish I'd gone to this place, and I wish I'd done this, and I wish I'd done that." And I saw a guy that I respected greatly take his last breath with more dreams in his mind than memories in his heart. And so,
wow,
that's huge.
What I thought to myself,
can you say that again? Say that one more time.
Yeah. He died with more dreams in his head than memories in his heart.
Wow.
And
that's really good.
For me, when my son was born, gives me goosebumps still to think about sitting next to his crib in the intensive care unit when he was born, looking at him, seeing his tiny little hands, and his hand was the size of my thumbnail, and just thinking to myself, this is what life's about. This is the person that I need to be there for. And the job is not as important as people make out,
Yeah.
I think we're chasing this false success sometimes. And so anyway, fast forward 6 months, I said to my wife, "Look, I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to quit." I'd just been to Tony Robbins, which for anyone who's ever been to a Tony Robbins event, you think you can smash through a brick wall with your bare hands. It's just insane. So,
that's what I've heard.
Walk on poles and stuff.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Did all of that stuff. And so I left my job with no plan, with no clients, with no with no backup. Like it was literally just let's do this and just run with the
Burn the
vibe. We had
ships.
literally burnt the boats and remortgaged our family home to do it, and
Wow.
went from there. And within a few months, we were working with some pretty serious big name brands that most people would be probably either watching this device on, this podcast on this brand's device, or listening to it on this brand's device. And I'm
Wow.
standing in this room just going, how did this happen? How did I get from working that corporate job, going through all of that stuff, to now standing here in front of this room full of heavy hitters, teaching what I teach around sales and marketing, and having an impact on people. So that's really like the core part of my story and how I got to where I am now, with some other little hurdles in the way.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's an interesting background. Everything that you went through to get where you are. That's awesome. So what was the corporate job, and how did you get into that?
Sure. So the corporate job, I was essentially a manager, a sales manager for or my official title was business development manager, which just sounds a bit more official than sales manager,
Right.
for a residential building company in
Okay.
Australia. And so these guys are now the third largest residential building company in Australia.
Wow.
And I've had my career was in that industry. And that's actually what a lot of my work now relates to, that industry. So I teach a lot of people in that industry still. And as a result of that, then a lot of other coaches and consultants and what I would deem as experts or difference makers, I call them,
Yeah.
sort of said, hey, Kirby, how did you transition from this to that and make money and build a business and have all the stuff you have, all the freedom you have and the stuff that you've done? And that's
Yeah.
basically what I'm now starting to teach that. So it's been a really interesting journey.
That is interesting. So you were just climbing the ladder there, the corporate ladder, if you will.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
and eventually you were just like, I'm a hamster on a wheel. What was it that made you not like it?
Sunday nights, Sunday night was just a killer for me. I'd get to Sunday night and I knew that every week, regardless of what the results were for the business, I'd get the email from the general manager saying, it's not good enough. We need more. We need to do more. And that just got to me. I don't know. There was just something about it where I thought, hang on, I am spending, a good third of my weekend when I should be with my family, worrying about this email that's going to come in. And really, do I want to allow someone else to take away my happiness?
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
really what it came to at the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's interesting, because most people would look at that and say, you're making almost 300 grand a year. That's a ton of money. I mean, that puts you in the top 1% of earners in the world, I believe. And most people would probably call you crazy to walk away from something like that.
They did.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's how you know it's a good idea, when people tell you something's crazy.
Which we've heard
I'm
before.
still not sure if it was the right idea, but
that's funny.
That's kind of what I'm hung up on. What was your thought process when you made the decision that I'm going to leave this well-paying job and jump into something that literally is not making me any money at the moment?
Brandon, the real thing that was entering my mind was like just this weird sense of like internal belief that, what if I can teach this in this company, if I can work with this team of people and teach this thing, why can't I go and teach this thing to like 1 million people?
Right.
And because I knew the skill set was transferable. I mean, sales and marketing is extraordinarily transferable in so many industries now.
Yeah.
And I literally it was just one of those crazy moments, call it immaturity, call it naivety, or a combination of all of the above. But it was just one of those moments where I jumped and said, I back myself. It's one of the rare moments, I think, as entrepreneurs, if we want to coin it as that, or as business owners, small business owners, medium business owners, there comes a time where you have to just trust. One of my big mantras is trust the process.
Yeah.
The sad part of the time was I didn't have a process.
Trust the process that you know is out there, but I don't have
it.
You guys have probably heard the quote, jump and build the wings on the way down, or build the airplane on the way down. So I think of something like that. Yeah. That's literally what I think. If you wait for everything to be right, you'll never do it. That's the reality.
That's
if you
right.
wait for, I've got enough money in the bank. I'm feeling confident in myself. I've got the right business plan. I've got client. Like, come on, just get in the game and trust yourself. Don't be silly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was probably a bit silly with a 6-month-old baby at the time, but If you've got a bit of cash in the bank, you back yourself.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with, if you pick this thing up enough times and speak to enough people and ask them what their problem is and effort to solve it, you'll make money.
That's right.
That's if I could stop this podcast now and people just go and do that thing, like, what are we talking about, guys? Just get in and do the work.
Yeah.
Stop dicking around on Facebook.
Right. Don't have
Netflix,
paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, Netflix will still be there when you're a millionaire.
Yes,
right.
Like,
you
can
probably
catch up
wouldn't
on all
even
the
watch
episodes of Game of Thrones when you got money.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So what? Talking on the subject. So when you did, when you did quit the job, what was that like? Explain how that went down, and then what did you do immediately after? Because it's like, oh crap, I need to make some income for myself and my family.
So I mean, the day that I handed in my notice, the general manager called me and said, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." So anyway, I did that, and it was actually really, once I'd sent the email and done the thing and handed in the notice, and resigned from my role, it was somewhat scary for about an hour and a half. But then I knew I had the cash behind us to sort of get in the game, So then we had fun, and we realized, we did the whole, what people think entrepreneurship is like. Those memes you see on Facebook where it's got like, what mum thinks I do.
Right.
That one.
That's what I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. And what we realized after about a few months was that we were running out of money pretty quick. we were going on holiday, and I was like, oh, this is great. Here I am on a beach with my laptop. And then I realized being on the beach with your laptop, looking at your Facebook newsfeed is not business. That's just you pretending. So I did that for a few months. And then I realized my wife came in to me and she said, "Hey, honey, I know you're working hard and you're doing your best, but we can't afford any nappies next week for the baby." And I was like, all right, time to get serious. So at that point, The next day, so actually there's a good story in this that I think is a really good lesson for everyone. Coming back to this comment about the phone calls. I had done the whole thing of like pretending to be the online entrepreneur and putting the posts on Facebook and being the motivational guy.
Yeah.
Offering the inspiration to the masses. It doesn't convert. I mean, you might get likes and shares and engagement, but that doesn't pay the bank, right? So what happened was the next day after my wife had that conversation with me, I'm not going to lie, I might have cried a little bit that night and thought of myself as a bit of a failure. But then the next day I pulled my socks up and I listed out 300 people that I knew could like gain benefit from what I was teaching. Mm-hmm. And I called all of them over the preceding days, and I sold them a ticket to an event that I'd never ran before.
Wow.
So I basically said, I'm going to run this event, and I'm going to teach you everything that I used to teach here and everything I've done in my career to make it a success. And I'm going to teach it to you in one day. I'm going to give you a system to follow, and I'm going to charge you $300 for the ticket. And we filled the room.
No kidding.
Yeah. And that was amazing. That was a real moment of like clarity for me going, I can do this.
How many people were in the room?
We had 42 people pay $300.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Just from 300 phone calls. But you know what? My ears were burning. I was just on the phone constantly.
Yeah,
and here's the thing. This is a really good lesson for anyone who wants to walk the entrepreneurial journey. We can come into it with the preconceived notion of what it needs to sound like, look like, be like. And we can say, this is the thing that I do, and this is the problem that I solve. But here's what I found. On those phone calls, every time I'd get a no or every time I'd get an objection, what I would do is I would say, what would need to happen for this to be a yes? All right. And then as I was making the calls, I was adjusting my feed. Mm-hmm. I was adjusting my pitch, adjusting the way that I was talking about this event to match all the stuff I'd heard on the preceding calls. Absolutely. And so by the last few calls,
no for an answer.
It was like, by the way, I know that this is going to be your objection, so here's how we're going to hit that. Here's the bonus. Here's the guarantee. Yeah. All this stuff that I never knew, I was building into my, risk reversal, all this stuff in marketing terms that we talk about. I was building that into my offer as I built it, and I was building it on the fly. And then by the last calls, it was like close. It became so easy. We were selling tickets to every person we spoke to because I had it so down pat after the practice, the repetition of doing the work.
That's awesome. And I think everybody out there, this is a really, really good lesson on just going for something and not thinking about it, because all the objections that you heard when you were calling those 300 people, you weren't gonna you can't find that information online. You can't find it in a textbook. That comes from just experience. And no matter how much you prepared for making those calls, figuring out everything, I mean, you would have got hit with an objection and could be completely thrown off your game and not know what to do anyway. So why not just jump in and figure it out as you go?
Well, I just figured,
that's cool.
I just figured if I'm not going to have any money next week, I may as well go down swinging, right?
Yeah.
And
So you got two choices. You can curl up into a ball and cry about how bad it is, or you can get off your ass and do something.
yeah, and
That's
I
great.
think that, the decision that you made to leave and put yourself in a situation where you have nothing, I think that builds the character and the entrepreneur faster and more efficiently than doing it kind of as a side hustle. Because at that point, like you said, you're swinging at everything. You're taking all the chances you can get because you're kind of at rock bottom with not having
There's no going back.
Yeah. So I mean,
well, where there wasn't, was there? So
right.
there's like what have you got to lose? I mean, if you backed yourself enough to start, why not back yourself when it gets hard?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
there's
after
no difference.
Right. So after you did that seminar, you made some money, and realized just the formula for being successful. What did you do from there? Where did you scale the business to? How'd you grow?
I leveraged it from there. So actually, and again, this is a good lesson for so many people out there. What I thought I wanted was the big team, the fancy office, all of that stuff, right? Here's what I realized. That's not what I wanted. It was the opposite of what I wanted, because I wanted to spend more time with my family. That was the whole purpose of starting the business. In the end, what ended up happening was I had more money than I'd ever had in my life, but I was the least happy than I'd ever been in my life because I was traveling every week still.
Uh-huh.
I was flying around places to do conferences and seminars and workshops, and it wasn't filling me up. But on the outside, again, social media looked amazing. I had great videographers following me around. I had weekly vlogs where everyone's like, "Wow, Kirby's going to somewhere new," and it was like, yeah, but I'd get home at midnight, exhausted, climb into bed, and I think the lesson in that is everyone should get a piece of paper and write down, here's what I want from my business, and then they should stick to that plan. Don't worry about the income, right? The income's easy. It's not hard to make money nowadays. Right? It's not hard to go and make six figures. I say that with a degree of caution and trepidation, but I believe most people can go out there, if they apply themselves well and care enough about the people they serve, they can make six figures.
Absolutely.
I know multiple people that make well over six figures that I don't know how they even get dressed in the morning. There's so many out there that, to what you're saying, this day and age and the information age where we have Google and all that stuff, it's easy to do. So,
and to circle back to your point, Will, what happened after that event was we just got we leveraged everyone in the room. So what we did, we had sales teams in the room. And so what I did, I spoke to them and said, and then I went back to their sales manager and I said, hey, you're going to notice that this individual who committed to coming to this event has got better results than anyone else in your team right now. And they said, yeah, you're right. And I said, so now what if we did that to your whole team? And that's how I got into more corporations, and we just scaled it out from there. So it was kind of organic, but honestly, it was probably a bit of luck as well. I didn't anticipate that would be the outcome, but it worked so well, and we ended up doing 7 figures of income from that. So
no kidding.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what you do now. You said you scaled it into corporate businesses and things like that. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So by some sort of magic, because of that whole online presence, a lot of other people who wanted to do this journey came to me and said, Kirby, how did you do it? So I spend my time kind of split in two now. I've got a corporate side of my business still where I teach the corporate clients the sales and marketing stuff that I've been teaching for years. And then on the flip of that, I've got difference makers where I teach them how to start or scale a business making a difference to other people or businesses. And so that's really where I spend my time. So I spend a lot of my time online doing this sort of stuff, talking to coaches and consultants and saying, do this and change this, and looking at their marketing and how they get out to the world. And then, I still fly around a little bit, but not as much now, doing corporate work. And I do most of my corporate work online now as well, because I'm probably I'm probably in a position where I can choose who I work with, or I'm more careful. That's probably the
Right.
word I would use. I'm more careful who I work with, because I've worked with some people for cash flow purposes when I had the staff in the office, where it was kind of like, you take it on because you need it, not because you want it.
Mm,
Whereas now I bring it in because I want it. And
that's a
it's
good spot to be
much
in.
nicer way to do. Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah,
very nice. Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
that is
But here's the
cool.
thing, if people are starting their journey and listening to me say that, don't be fooled into thinking that's day one, because it's not. Like, day one of your business, you might have to do some things or pivot on what you experience or what you expect, because that's what has to happen to bring the dollars in to start with. And that's how you build your experience. And that's how you build the mental muscle to keep going when it's hard. So, don't neglect the clients who are there
Yeah,
in front of you.
I completely agree with that. There's a book out there. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called The 4 Hour Work Week,
Mm-hmm.
by Tim Ferriss. And I think I think it's an awesome book. And I, try to implement a lot of that into what I do. Um, but for someone just getting started, I think that's a little bit more advanced in terms of what you should expect from your business. Because I think when you're
Yeah.
starting, you got to bootstrap it. You gotta work long hours. You got to do all that stuff to kind of get momentum going, and then you can kind of automate things and scale back as much time that you put into it. Um, so I remember someone gave me that book when I was first getting started in the mortgage business. I just started reading it. And it was just a little bit. It was just over my head, because it was
Yeah.
like I need to work and hustle and do all that before I can do this. So you're
Well,
exactly
you got to,
right.
you got to respect the journey too, right? Like, I think Tim
Yeah.
Ferriss is like, here's the end result, go do it. But in a lot of ways, what he's saying has a lot of merit. But
Yeah,
also
for
for
sure.
99% of businesses, it's not applicable. Like, people are involved in businesses, and so if you're sitting on the beach in Thailand sipping on a cocktail and you've got a virtual assistant answering the questions for your clients,
Yeah,
why are you even in the process? The clients are going to figure
Right.
that out soon enough.
absolutely.
And you're going to be a commodity, and you're going to be paid nothing. So
Yep.
don't fall into the trap, people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I'd agree with that.
So where do you see your business kind of going now in the future? That you got 4 more continents left to hit, and
Yeah.
where do you see yourself going?
Uh, like I actually see myself helping a lot more difference makers. I see that as the path. I'm heading to Dallas in 7 days from now, from the time of recording this. So that's a whole room full of difference makers that I'm helping there, and I feel like that's just really aligned to me. The corporate work will happen, that's going to come. I've got a
Right.
really specific niche and a specific expertise, so that's not going to go away. But I feel most fulfilled by helping other people to achieve greatness with their business, especially when they help others. I think there's this need in the world right now for people to serve. I think there's so many
Yeah.
people taking, or so many people have just spent years taking from
Mm-hmm.
people. The time is now to start the give. Give of yourself, give your expertise. You guys are doing the same thing. You've got expertise that's valuable to other people. You need to share that. And most people have great expertise, but they struggle with the mechanisms to go and put it out there, or their confidence to put it out there.
Right.
And that's what I want to help more people with in the next little while.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about the difference maker and just how that works and who it would
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah, so I mean, anyone who uses their expertise to help others basically is the simple way to say it. But that usually looks like a coach or a consultant or an author, perhaps someone who wants to write a book.
Okay.
Traditionally, professional services is probably the way to term it. So accountants, mortgage advisors, that sort of thing can all benefit from what I teach. And essentially, what I look at really is 3 things: have they got the right business foundations? Have they got a good asset that the customer wants that they can give for value? And then how do they convert that asset into income for their business?
Mm.
And I think if you can nail that, that's really the trifecta that I've seen in my business that got me to where I am. And most people are either missing one or more of those parts. They might be great at sales, but they might suck at building value. So they're always on the pitch. You see them on Facebook. Talk to me if you want help with XYZ. Like, who's gonna say yes to that?
Right.
No one.
Right.
Like, just stop being a dick. Like, start to add
That's
some
right.
value instead.
Yeah.
And the people who turn up on social media or email list, and they're just constantly answering the questions that their market have, they build what I call intrinsic authority, where they don't even have to tell people they're the authority. It's just believed. And then they end up converting much more easily. So that's what I really want to teach people, how to set up a business that is wildly successful, but also that leaves people better than they found them.
Yeah.
And I think I liked what you said there. It even if you're not the authority, it makes people believe that you are. You just have to be the expert in the room. Essentially.
Exactly.
And people have to trust that you know what you're doing, and as long as you portray that, obviously you're not going to bullshit people, but if you can portray that you're the guy and you're the only guy there is, then that's huge.
And doesn't that come back to like what the definition of success is in the first place? Most people think success is a private jet. It's not. Like,
right.
You and this is the thing. You don't have to have 1 million social media followers to be a success.
Mm-hmm.
You can have 1,000 who all love you, and that's probably better. 1,000 people who would buy your T-shirt, your CDs, your MP3s. You put it out there, and they'll just swarm on it. That's what you want, 1,000 true fans.
Yeah, and that rather than 1 million random people who just follow you because you put pictures of your jet and stuff on there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Grant Cardone.
Yeah. Hey, I still like him.
I know, so do I. You just said that. I had
amazing.
to.
Yeah, and the story about why he bought the jet too was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother day.
write-off.
He basically had $50 million he needed to spend, and he,
Yep. If I had $50 million to spend, I would probably buy a jet too. So.
Yeah, $50 million you needed to spend.
But this is how it works. Listen to the conversation we're having. We're having a conversation about someone. We're making him the authority by talking about him.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's exact, and that's because he's out in the market giving value.
He is.
Yep.
And that's why we're having this conversation. So there you go. So that's exactly the point I'm making that most people miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And so let's say somebody wants to be that authority. How do you begin becoming that authority?
First of all, the easiest way to do this, I'll literally give you the whole blueprint, right? Go to your market, go to Facebook groups, go to YouTube comments, go to Amazon book reviews, 5 stars, 1 stars. Listen to the questions that people ask on your other like competitors. So there's always going to be someone who's at the top of the pile in your industry. Go to their posts, look at what people are asking, watch their live streams, look at the questions people are asking, and then go and answer those questions on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever it's appropriate. And use the right keywords so people can find you.
Right.
Then when they find you, give them more value and then offer them some free value without charging them anything. And eventually you can shake the tree and some people will just say, hey, how do we work with you more? Which is such an easy question to answer. The second thing is then you can make an offer, but people aren't going to be thinking, he's just going to make me a crummy offer, because they're going to say, Kirby's entitled to make me this offer because he's just given me 20 weeks of amazing content.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's only pitched me once, and then it's up to the individual if they want it or not. That's how you build the business.
That's so valuable right there.
There is no rocket science to this. It's absolutely proven. It's a proven model that everyone who is successful is doing, and everyone who is lazy is not.
Yeah,
that's so good. Yeah, everybody out there, that was a golden nugget.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's all Gary Vee does. Like everyone knows who Gary Vaynerchuk is, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Of course, right? Because he's prolific. The reason he's prolific is all he's doing is observing questions and answering them. That's all he does. He just taps into the mainstream psyche and reverberates it back to the audience, and they love it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And that's what it is today. It's all about providing value to other people. And
Sure.
Like you said, everybody wants, but nobody's given anything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
So, all right, Kirby, well, we're going to jump into our Moments of Truth segment here. It's the same 7 questions that we ask all of our guests. And I'm going to kick it off with the first one. Who is your success role model?
My dad.
That's awesome. Yeah.
How come?
And not for the reason people think, because most people would say, but he passed away and he left behind so much that he wanted to do. And I say, and that's exactly why he was a success model for me, because he made me realize what it wasn't.
Right.
That's good.
And then
not that he, not to disparage my father. That sounds terrible, but I love my dad, and he was a great example to me. He worked hard, did everything right for the family. But you know what? He made me realize what really mattered in life, and that's truly the best success story he could have given me.
That's awesome. That's a unique way to put that. Usually people talk about their work ethic or whatever, but that's awesome right there. That's really, and that what he said. Can you just repeat that? What you talked about at the beginning of the episode?
Yeah,
that was so good.
About people leaving. I want, like, if I am responsible for one thing, I just want to make sure that when someone sits at their deathbed and they're holding their child's hand, or if they've got kids, or they're holding the hand of someone they love, hopefully, that they leave the life and they can sit there confidently and say, you know what, I've got more memories than dreams, not more dreams than memories. That's so important.
It's giving me chills.
Just go and do the thing you want to do. Go and travel. Go and see the world. Go and speak to the people you want to speak to.
Right.
You're going to get like one shot at this, and it can be over before you know it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
What's your biggest success?
My children.
Okay.
And how many?
It's an amazing thing to. I've got 2 boys and I've got a stepdaughter as well who's 13, and
nice.
To see the role that I play in her life is really nice. Obviously, I'm not a biological father, but I like to think that I'm a good role model for her in what I do. But also my 2 boys, I mean, to sit and watch them sleep is the most fulfilling thing I'll ever see in my life. I mean, only because they're quiet at that stage. But,
That's all the time they're not tearing up the house.
Yeah. But it is amazing to watch two little humans grow up and
that's really neat.
You feel it when they're looking at you, and I just really hope that when I pass away, hopefully that's not for a long time, but
hopefully not.
I really hope that they can say, Dad taught us some good lessons and he showed us how to help others and showed us how to be good people. That's what I really want.
Yeah. I'm sure you will. You did a great job.
I have a good feeling that'll be the case.
So what's a typical day for you look like?
I usually wake up about 5. I'm big on this sort of typical day thing, and that's the exercise I get everyone to do first is write down what you want your day to be and then just go make it happen. So, if you want to go and do a gym workout, go do it. So usually I do the school run, which I'm about to do in about 20 minutes with my daughter. Wow. Just to bring it back to earth from the big sort of business thing.
Yeah.
I actually still do the school run. I do not have a driver or a jet yet. Usually do the school run, hang out with my wife for an hour or so and have a cup of tea and talk some business, catch up on what's going on, and then get into my calls. Usually have client calls most of the day, and then always try and have lunch with my boys before they go down for their little sleep. Like to hang out with them for a little bit if possible, if time allows. And that's pretty much it. I don't have this kind of hardcore routine or I'm not like, let's just work.
Yeah.
I think you've got to stop sometimes and realize that can definitely kill you if you have that mindset.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge misconception with a lot of, successful entrepreneur people. And, you see all over Facebook, people like, oh, grind now, blah, 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 do all it. But, it's not always, work 24/7. You got to take care of yourself and things like that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's your favorite quote?
I've got 2. Can I share 2?
Yeah, please.
Breaking the rules. I am a bit of a rule breaker.
Whatever. We have
no rules here.
No rules here.
Is Gandhi's quote, which is, it's that awkward moment when it disappears out of your mind. So Gandhi's quote is, what is it? It's gone. Scrap Gandhi's quote. Gandhi's quote doesn't matter anymore.
We're only doing one quote.
All right, you're not breaking the rules.
No, it's be the change you wish to see in the world.
Okay.
That's the one. It invaded my mindset there for a second, which I like that quote. But also, my only business value is this saying: leave everyone better than you find them.
Yeah.
So even if people don't buy off you, even if people don't transact, even if people don't engage with you on social media, at least put the energy out there that is like, even if someone doesn't comment on my posts, I'm going to just put it out there because it's the right thing to do in the trust that it will leave someone in a better place if they watch this or if they read this or if they listen to this podcast, for example. So just bring your energy and be nice to people. Be that person in the lift who annoys people in the elevator where you're like, hey, good morning, how are you? And everyone's like, shut up, Kirby, just let me drink my coffee.
Right.
Like be that person because the world needs it right now.
Yeah, very true.
Does.
And that quote that you said, leave someone better than you found them. It I don't know why this popped up in my head, but kind of relates to real life. Is like you spend the night at someone's house and you sleep in their guest bedroom or something, and you leave and don't make the bed. That's
it's not cool.
No, my thing is if you leave, make the bed, make it look nice, or if not nicer than when you got there, because they need that. Otherwise, they're gonna have to go in, make the bed, and the chances of them wanting to ever invite you back over to their house is slim. I know it's completely different from business, but for some reason that popped up in my head, and it relates a little bit to real life.
But I mean, it's the same, right? Because here's the thing: how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Absolutely.
So if you show up in that way in that situation, then you'll show up in that way in different situations.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really solid mantra that everyone could live by, and the
100%.
world would be a much better place for the benefit of it.
Yeah, that's great.
So Kirby, what are some of your hobbies?
I like to play soccer, or football as they call it in the UK. Depending on where you're listening to this, I call it soccer in Australia, which all my friends hate. And I used to play guitar when I was a kid, and I literally just bought a guitar again, which is sitting right behind me here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, nice.
And so I've started to play guitar. No, I can't.
Yeah, free concert.
Yeah.
And you just forget how hard things are when you get to be like older. It's just so much. It seems so much easier when you're like 11 years old.
Right.
So that's kind of like my switch off. Is
cool.
to play soccer and connect with people outside of the business environment, and also to play the guitar. That's like my me time.
That's
Very
therapeutic.
Cool. You definitely need
it
me
is
time.
very nice.
Yeah.
Got to have
it. What's the best business book that you've read?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that there's a couple of them. One of them, depending on where you're at in business, of course. One of them, which I've only just started to read, which I love, is Profit First. I forget the author's name, but Profit First is really good. That's kind of like putting things in the right order financially for your business, which I think a lot of people fail to do. Another great one is by Gino Wickman, which is called Traction.
Oh, great book.
Which is a really good book for small businesses specifically. And from a marketing perspective, everyone should read marketing book. I would say everyone should read Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. It's a beast of a book to get through. It was written in like 1940 something, 46, I think. But It's so applicable to how we interact nowadays. I think everyone should read that. Right now on Amazon to buy it, I think it costs like $700.
Holy shit.
So it's super expensive to buy. But I think that someone bought the rights from the family or something like that, and you can probably find a copy for $50 or $60.
Okay.
But it's if you want to market to the general population and turn cold traffic into hot traffic and clients, you have to read that book. Like, it is the go-to book.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, if that's something you're interested, check it out.
Also, I should probably say my book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Give it a shout out.
So yeah, my book is it's called Are We There Yet? Because I think that's a question a lot of us ask on our business journey is, when are we going to get there? So
very cool.
That's
where can people find it?
They can get it on my website. So if they go to anthonykirby.com, they can grab it there.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
And last question here. If there was one key piece of advice you could leave our listeners with about achieving success, what do you think it would be?
I would say, first of all, ask yourself the question of, what is success for you without regarding others? So as in getting the ego out of the way. And secondly, what would you need to change right now to move you closer to that, even if it meant you had to take a bit of a hit to the ego?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I used to think I had to have the big fancy office in the city to be professional. And I realized that was taken away probably 3 or 4 hours a day with commuting and so on. Right. And that's time I could have had with my kids. So when I sat down and said, well, I don't feel like I'm spending enough time with my kids, the first thing I did was got rid of the office. But it was an ego thing, right? It was like, but what are people going to think if I get rid of my office? And then I realized I don't care what they think. If they don't want to work with me because I don't have a fancy office in the city, then they're not my clients anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So get that out of your head and everything becomes clearer. So that would be what I would leave people with from a questioning perspective. Ask yourself that first and then go from there.
That's
great.
That's
like you said, the ego. I think that's huge. And a lot of people have to deal with that. And yeah,
that's right.
So, Anthony, how can our listeners get in contact with you? I know you mentioned the website for your book, but if you mind repeating that.
So they can go to anthonykirby.com, or they can go to Instagram or Facebook, The Anthony Kirby, and you'll find me there as well. And I'd love to connect and find out what your favorite part was from the episode, so I can share it with Brandon and Will. And when they've got their website up, we can redirect you back there, and they can retarget you.
That's great. You're
It's
giving
all
us advice
strategies.
before the show. Yeah, it's all about
Yeah.
the strategy behind everything. So
Yeah.
it's good.
But yeah, Anthony, we appreciate you being on today. I mean, your story was awesome. I loved hearing it. And
Yeah, a
getting
ton
to
of
know
value
more.
there.
And for our listeners, be sure to follow him on Instagram and Facebook and get a copy of his book. I know I'm gonna try to get a copy of the book after this recording here, and
Yeah.
and also don't forget to subscribe to the show so that you're not missing any of our daily episodes, and rate and comment like Anthony said, so that we can get back to our interviewees and guests and let them know where their best value is at, so they can continue to grow themselves. And also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. Anthony, we appreciate you being on today.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony, and see everyone tomorrow.